It's a night kick. It's your rival. Like, there would be a letdown opportunity if it was anybody else coming off back-to-back road trips and a couple of huge wins, but it's a Sunflower Showdown. K-State's got 54 guys on their roster from the state of Kansas. KU's got 29 from what I've counted. This game means a ton to K-State's players and this program, and I trust that they'll be ready to play and they'll be okay.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another edition of 3Ma. I am John Kurtz, joined by Cole Manbeck and Derek Young. We've got all of us back together here to preview the Sunflower Showdown, which, as we all expected in the offseason, is, of course, a battle of two titans trying to lock down Big 12 supremacy. Oh, that's right. Actually, that's not exactly how it played out, but still a tough game for the Cats coming up, which means you need to have plenty of stuff from our friends at Holiday Distillery on hand, whether that has been Holiday Bottled in Bond Bourbon or 360 Vodka or even something new. Because if you're going to be in Manhattan this weekend, which obviously I think many of you will be, Holiday is going to be doing a one-barrel bourbon launch at the Fridge this Friday from 4 to 7. So Wyatt with Holiday will be there launching the Fridge's Holiday Weeded Barrel Pick from 4 to 7 on Friday. And you can also get it at the tailgate, which will be on Saturday. Make sure to come by the 3Ma tailgate with our friends at Holiday Distillery. Spot 778 on the west side. The tailgate starts at 4. Same spot that we've been the last couple of years. So if you've been fortunate enough to come by, just go back to the same place, 778 on the west side. First weeded barrel pick outside of Kansas City in the state of Kansas. The Fridge will have it in stock all day Saturday too. So even if you can't get it from 4 to 7 on Friday, you can still pop in on Saturday and grab that as well. So more great stuff from our friends at Holiday Distillery. We appreciate them a ton and always love their support, and they back the Cats big time. Guys, how we feeling? You got matching hats on today. That seems to be good vibes. Is that you trying to send a message that they should wear white helmets for this game, or what's the deal with the hats?
It's Wildcat NIL, John. You should support them too.
We are trying to.
I was literally just wearing my hoodie, but I was too hot, so I didn't.
We are trying to send a message to support Wildcat NIL at catsnil.com. Go sign up for the membership tier. You can get this hat for the $25 a month club or higher, and this hat comes with it along with some other merch.
Look at this guy. It's just a walking billboard.
It really is. That's pretty good. Hey, it's like Jerome Tang tells us all the time. We help the team win championships. Eli, we are trying to help the team win a Big 12 championship this year and get to the college football playoff. Okay, well, we're all back. DY, I know there's been a lot of talk this week at the press conferences about how tired everybody is. How you feeling? And where's the DY energy meter at after Boulder and Morgantown?
I had Provo not long before that. I will say, someone said it at the press conference, and they're kind of right. You don't really feel like your total self until about Tuesday. So yesterday I really got into a better groove, and today I'm 100%. So we're good.
That's great. Good to hear you handle the jet lag well and all the travel schedules.
It's different because you don't get to sleep. Because we work right after the games, right? They take the charter flight back, and they get back at 3 or 4 or 5 a.m. Also brutal. We work until 3, 4, 5 a.m. and then go to sleep. And sometimes if you have an early flight out the next day, you sleep for about 2 hours only.
It would be nice if the band would be there at the airport for you guys, too. Yeah.
I know.
Just send like a smaller band. Come on, Frank Trace. Send like a smaller media band out there.
DY, would you enjoy having a small band blasting Wildcat Victory in your ears as you walk to your car after you get off the plane?
I don't know.
No, even better, man. They don't even have to play Wildcat Victory. You send that little small band to play the Kansas Wildcat March, written by John Philip Sousa, a long-ass time ago. They can play that for you, DY. You can get the Kansas Wildcat March.
Can't beat that. So
no, you can't at all. You can't at all. Nothing gets my blood flowing more than Cole, you were talking about on the Discord the other day, patreon.com/3ma, to join that, about like some pregame tunes that you wanted to have at the tailgate. I presume that the Kansas Wildcat March will be a part of that.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I'm sure I really sold it well for people that probably now will want to not show up to the tailgate when they heard some of the songs I was throwing in there that on the playlist potentially. So
I know the night games do a lot of heavy lifting here, but after being at BYU, after being at Colorado, and after being at West Virginia, I think Kansas State needs to really do something about their pregame.
Well, BYU does it very well. I don't know what did Colorado do?
I forget now, but I'm just I just think it was a better like hype like beforehand, where K-State seems like it's kind of a morgue at times.
You mean proud of this house and the Kansas Wildcat March are not? Colorado had a little different vibe.
I'm not taking any away from the band because the
band doesn't play proud of this house, DY.
Well, I know, but you said the Wildcat March. I'm not going to take anything away from the band, but I think whatever that they can do to uplift the atmosphere from about 15 minutes before the game, that whole 15 minutes is what they should be doing. You go to, like we went to BYU, went to Colorado, we went to West Virginia. For the entire 15 or 20 minutes before the game, it's all hype.
Let me make it clear. Nothing that I'm saying is about the band. I'm sure they execute the Kansas Wildcat March flawlessly. The problem is the Kansas Wildcat March is not getting anybody hyped up.
I agree. I'm just avoiding the wrath of the band because I've succumbed to it before.
Okay. I am not trying to take on the wrath of the band. They're obviously excellent, and it is a very cool thing that they do to play. But it just, yes, I've seen a lot of conversation about that lately, like people kind of wanting a little bit more from the pregame environment, and that's not exactly the most upbeat hype song in the world. Then again, we also saw, well, I don't know, go down that road. The Facebook post of someone who was very upset about the music that's being played at the stadium. So I don't know. You can't please everybody. How worried, boys? How worried are you about the 2-5 Kansas Jayhawks coming in here? Because I will say, I heard Fitz say this, and I kind of agree with it. It kind of a weird vibe this week, I feel like, because we all expected that this was going to be such a huge matchup and a ton of hype, and perhaps the biggest game between these two since 1995, and instead Kansas, I would say, is limping in, but they do have more confidence after beating Houston, and you're sort of looking at it now like, all right, well, Jalen Daniels seems like he's playing better. They have probably figured some things out over a bye week and then a get-right game against Houston. It's going to be a night game. K-State, a little tired. There's been talk about that at the press conference just from making the back-to-back road trips. So, and Kansas still has plenty of talent. Like, I heard Chris Kleiman say at the press conference, like he was watching the game 2 years ago, the film from 2 years ago, and he was like, dude, like so many of those guys are still on the roster at Kansas. So where's your concern level at? Headline number one.
I moderate, I would say. I'm not like blinking red light like I was when they played Colorado. I picked the Buffaloes to win just because I think Colorado's a better team than Kansas this year. Regardless of that, there is thoughts in my mind that obviously I think this is an irretypical 2-5 team. They've lost a lot of one-score games where they easily could have been wins. If they can pick up a fumble, I think they have 2 more wins than they have right now. So I think there's a semblance of that their record probably overshadows how good they can be, even though they haven't played up to that level for the most part this year. And I just think they've had this game circled for 365 days at this point. So you're probably going to get a better execution and a more inspired football team from Kansas than you have in prior games this season. I don't know that any of that is going to be enough in Manhattan, but I think both of those things are true.
KU's got nothing to lose. Like I've said before, this is Lance Leipold's opportunity to really save face on what's been a tremendously disappointing football season. I mean, I've seen some KU fans commenting. I'm sure this is pretty well thought out in the fan base that, if they do end the streak against Kansas State, at least they'll have some sort of success this season. And then they still have a chance to get to a bowl. It would still be a disappointing season, but this is their chance to leave their mark on this season. There's a lot of seniors on this KU football team, like Chris Kleiman saying, looking at the film from 2022 to now. I mean, just look at their wide receivers. I mean, Quentin Skinner, Lawrence Arnold, Luke Grimm. I mean, those are 3 guys. 2 of them are fifth-year seniors at KU. Skinner is a third-year guy at KU. Look, I mean, those 3 guys have combined for 372 receptions for almost 5,700 yards in their Kansas career. Devin Neal, a senior, going to probably set the mark for the best, the career mark for most rushing yards in school history in the next game or two. Hopefully for K-State, it doesn't happen on Saturday, but he only needs 72, 73 yards to set that mark for the most rushing yards in the history of KU football. So they've got talent, and they got nothing to lose coming into Manhattan, but it's in Manhattan. If this game was in Lawrence, I would feel much more concerned at this point. But the fact that it's in Manhattan, it's a night kick, it's your rival. Like, there would be a letdown opportunity if it was anybody else coming off back-to-back road trips and a couple of huge wins. But it's a Sunflower Showdown. K-State's got 54 guys on their roster from the state of Kansas. KU's got 29 from what I've counted. This game means a ton to K-State's players and this program, and I trust that they'll be ready to play and they'll be okay.
It gives me 2022 vibes a little bit. Night game, K-State heading toward a potential Big 12 championship appearance. Now, that game, it was literally like win and you're in. So the stakes were a little bit higher as far as that goes. And this Kansas team, well, they are 2-5 right now. I mean, they very well could finish close to 500, which that team was a 6-6 team in the regular season, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, from 2 years ago. And that Kansas team was they were good enough to push the Big 12 champion K-State Wildcats in 2022. But then eventually K-State wore them down enough and pulled away and won the game by 20. Obviously, that type of outcome would be very welcomed because I have heard some. I was talking to some guys last night, 52-20. I'm like, I am not. I would caution anybody about going in with that sort of an attitude here because you are going to get literally everything that Kansas has. This is, Cole just said it. Like, this is the way to salvage some of their season. It's not going to be everything that they wanted, but man, it would go a long way toward salvaging a lot of this season if they win this game.
Yeah, people predicting a blowout, like a 25-30 point. That's just not going to happen. And I'd be shocked if that happens. I'd love it, but I would be very surprised. Just like DY mentioned on the onset there, look, KU led Illinois 17-13 with under 10 minutes remaining. They led UNLV 20-16 with less than 3 minutes remaining, led West Virginia 28-17 with less than 5 minutes left, led Arizona State 31-28 with less than 3 minutes left on the clock. TCU's the only team they trailed the entirety of the fourth quarter. They lost that game 38-27. They've lost their 5 games by a combined 28 points, right? Now, yes, K-State is the best team that KU will have played this year. It's a rivalry. It's in Manhattan. K-State has dominated the series, winning 15 in a row, and many of them have been blowouts. The majority of them have been blowouts. This KU team's been in every game. They've just found ways to lose at the end, and as a result, I expect this to be somewhat similar. Now, I think K-State will have a little bit more of an edge than some of those other teams. I don't expect K-State to be trailing with 3-4 minutes left in the game, but I think this will be a competitive football game. KU has talent, and like we've said, they've got nothing to lose coming in here. So it'll be a really tough matchup. I love the confidence, folks, but I just don't see a 49, 52, 20 type outcome occurring. But bring the atmosphere because it should be electric on Saturday night. I'm really looking forward to it.
Two things, and some of those leads that they have, I think at West Virginia and Illinois were road games, so they've done it before on the road as well. And you're talking about a late lead. KU had a late lead last year.
Oh, well, Kansas puked that game away.
Yeah, they did. I'm just saying, a lot of those guys are back. So as bad as they are playing right now, they still have that ability. They still have that capability.
And the 2022 game, the score wasn't probably as indicative of, didn't feel like a 20-point game.
Second half, Kansas smoked them in the second half, though.
But, like the muff punt that KU had inside their own 5-yard line there after they got a 3-and-out to start the game, that kind of shifted. I was already feeling nervous energy after that first 3-and-out in 2022, and then they muffed the punt. Coincidentally, guys, it's been muffed punts back-to-back years by Kansas that have really alleviated some of those pressures and stresses to help Kansas State win games against KU.
You're dead on, man. I heard Lance Leipold say it this week at his press conference when he was reflecting back to a couple of years ago and said the same thing. That was kind of a tone setter in that game in 2022. And yeah, last year, I still don't. That was one of those games I remember saying it afterward. I enjoyed 0.0 seconds of it really until the very end, until they were taking a knee.
Those are the funnier wins, though.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy any of it, man, because it never felt good. And obviously, Rich Miller, is that the linebacker? Again, everybody needs to be sending him Christmas cards. Please do, for dropping that pick six. Actually, I give him credit because I saw he tweeted about that, like pseudo apologized to everybody this week. for what happened with that last year, because that clip was going around social media. But I mean, it's true. I mean, Kansas absolutely lost that game last year, much more so than K-State won it. I know we just talked about this a little bit, but I had down as headline number 2, like, is there a concern level for this team being like just worn down a little bit by this point? They're about to, yes, I know, go to Houston after this, but we're like heading into a stretch now with 3 or 4 at home and a bye week in there. So like, there's going to be a lot that will hopefully help reset this team over the next few weeks in that regard. But it is a little bit difficult to do this night game across 3 time zones coming back. And I'll be honest, I was a little surprised at how much talk there seemed to be at the press conference about it. Some of that, you can put on the media too. I feel like
there was a lot of questions.
But I feel like a lot of the questions were like, hey, we were just talking about this, or Avery saying, yeah, Coach True was just talking about this earlier today. I mean, it just seemed like everybody was really, really chattering a lot about that.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one answer from Avery said Coach True had talked about it, and it was still Monday. Like, this is different than past years. You got to remember that too. Well, in past years, you're expecting this on Tuesday.
True.
Monday. And that one day is big in a 1 week preparation. So,
well, I got to point out too that Kleiman said that Lackey was really tired too. So even though exhausted.
I think the difference is that we're getting these guys on Monday versus Tuesday now. Because Mondays when we get them on Monday, they still haven't practiced yet. So if they feel tired then, it's not a terribly huge deal at that point because they should still be in recovery mode that Monday morning. So I think it's less. I think it's a little bit of that. And I think everyone's got about 7 or 8 games under their belt at this point, 7. So, I mean, you're going to be tired in general. I don't think it's that huge of a deal. I think it would be more of a deal if they had to go on the road again this week, but they don't. It's a home game. And another thing to think about, if it was a morning game right after these night games, then you're losing basically another day, right? Because you lose Sunday when you play late at night. But if you have to play them Saturday morning at 11 a.m. rather than, at 7 at night, then you lose another day because of the travel. But this is at home and it's at night, so I have less concerns.
Yeah, I mean, they're college kids. I think they'll recover fine and be okay. I mean, they're chartering flights. They're flying into Manhattan, back home when they get there. I know there have been late arrivals, but I would also reflect back on this, guys. I mean, and I know this was early on in the season, so there wasn't quite the same level of wear and tear. They went down to Tulane and they played in, 80% humidity or whatever it was, which took a toll on them. And then they had to flip and play on Friday night in Manhattan on 6 days turnaround. And this is a 7-day turnaround time with the night kick, as DY just said, at 7 p.m. as well, which helps a little bit there too. So I don't put a lot of credence into exhaustion, especially when it comes to your rival. Like if there's any opportunity for a letdown, to me, it would be concerned about next week at Houston. That kind of feels like that trap moment where you're going to have a lethargic, not really an energized crowd, and you're going to have to create your own energy coming off playing, this 3-game stretch that was big and playing your rivals. So that I would be more concerned about it next week, perhaps. But as far as wear and tear, travel, being tired, I mean, I think things kick in when you're playing your rival.
They do, as long as but it's not really about that Saturday game, right? It's about how you practice and how you prepare during the week. And if your exhaustion affects that. So, because your product on Saturday is it's a product of what you do Monday through Friday.
Okay. You guys are making me feel better. Thank you for me back.
You practice a little bit lighter this time of year. I will say that. So,
yeah. Well, definitely that time. And you've had some injuries piling up, maybe not so much at West Virginia. I will say too, I thought it was interesting hearing, who did I just hear say it? I was on the Stairmaster a minute ago watching all sorts of videos to get prepped here. But someone saying that Kleiman thought at West Virginia they maybe didn't have quite the energy that he expected, like coming out of the locker room. But then obviously they got it figured out and things were fine. So I think this team, and for, again, patreon.com/3, want to sign up for our Discord, for Harambe, who was very, very worried about how much K-State was still celebrating the Colorado game 2/3 of the way through last week. Obviously, that did not seem to matter much in Morgantown either. So
no, but West Virginia did them favors. sort of, because they were decimated by the second half. I don't know what happened at halftime, but I know you guys have already talked about it, but it was very strange because I knew Garrett Green was banged up, and then we heard about Jaheim White and their best offensive lineman, Wyatt Milam. I was like, what the heck just happened?
That was, we were all stunned in the in the basement where, Cole and I and our buddy Casey were watching the game, and Brody. We were all stunned when we saw that come out. Like, what? All right. That was just like a laundry list of, if you could go pick players out of West Virginia's lineup, like just take them and throw them out, like that'd be the top of the list.
Yeah. So it felt like as soon as they didn't get that fourth down, West Virginia's like, all right, we're done.
they literally, we talk about, if you just do this, it'll make everybody cash it in and quit on the season. We literally saw it happen, apparently, in front of our own eyes. Crazy. If Neil Brown needs something to cheer himself up, I'm sure he could go to homefieldapparel.com and find some great gear. I'm sure they have great West Virginia gear there. They've got 100+ teams.
Great Oklahoma gear.
Oh, my God. DY is wearing Oklahoma. That is actually a pretty good one. Boomer Sooner.
Well, I'm pouring one out for Seth Luttrell. I know he's in the unemployment line this year at this point of his life. But
man, yeah, what a time to be alive when we were gung-ho about Seth Luttrell being the next head coach at K-State. So much for that. Seth Luttrell, go to homefieldapparel.com and use promo code 3MON24. You'll get 15% off your first order. I'm sure the checks are probably still cashing for now, how the sport works.
Yeah, you're watching from the bleachers now, so you can watch it in home field gear.
Yeah, but you always want to save money, Seth, so 3MON24 for 15% off that first order. All right, just, helping you out. Cole's got home field gear on, too. Sorry, Cole, I didn't mean to...
Oh, well, that's okay. I just wanted to flash my one of my many home field hoodies that I've got with fall weather approaching. Going to be a fall-like weather kickoff on Saturday now, as it looks like it's going to be a little cooler than originally expected, maybe like 68, 69 degrees for high.
The best one is the purple one that John has. I like that one.
It is. I like it so much that I have two of them. So that tells you anything. I don't know what kind of endorsement you could possibly need out of that.
Yeah, it says Wildcats.
Yeah, script Wildcats across the front. I highly recommend it. Homefieldapparel.com, folks. Get 50+ K-State designs. Get 15% off your first order using promo code 3MON24. We're back in just a moment.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your number one source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com. The best part of finding something new is sharing it with your friends. That's exactly what it feels like when you discover that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal, there's no way you can keep it to yourself. So friends, don't let friends overpay for wireless. And you can say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans and switch to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your friends with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. And if you're worried about bringing over your old phone or your phone number and personal contacts, you can transfer all of that when switching to Mint Mobile. So ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/3MAW. That's mintmobile.com/3MAW. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/3MAW. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
All right, let's go ahead and make this top storyline of the week, which is brought to you by our friends at Elenco. Thank you to them for their support, as always, and all your home improvement needs. They have you covered. ElencoHome.com, ALENCO home.com, to get linked up with them. Let's just talk about the K-State running game here, because on paper it should be a huge advantage against the Kansas front seven. The strength of their defense definitely being in the back end with those ball-hawking defensive backs. But last week was a weird one. Like, it was all about Avery Johnson's arm. DJ Giddens, while the outcome was still in doubt, had about 25 yards rushing. I mean, he didn't even hit 30 yards rushing until it was like garbage time late in the game. And Avery Johnson didn't have a single design carry, which, I think you would have to surmise if you look back at the Colorado game and how the play calling changed after that. I mean, there really has not been a designed run since the Avery Johnson injury issue that he had there. So how are you feeling about the K-State ground game going into the matchup against Kansas this week, knowing what's going on with Avery and that DJ Giddens was actually shut down for once last week?
Oh, I'm not concerned about the running game. I think teams have started to say, all right, you guys are running the ball way too well. Here's a lot more numbers we're throwing at you at your offensive line. We're going to make Avery Johnson beat us with his arm. Colorado did that, I think, about midway or towards the end of the third quarter. They went to a 5-down line of scrimmage just to take away the Kansas State run game. And it kind of worked. DJ getting slowed down a little bit. And then Avery Johnson kicked up with his arm. That's when he had the long play to Jace Brown, a few other explosives as well, and ended up with almost, 250 yards passing. West Virginia basically said, we're going to do that for the entire game. It's hard to block with 5-on-8, right? That's basically what it is. 5-on-8, 6-on-8, 5-on-7. That's what you're seeing. This offensive line is not so destructive that they're going to win 5-on-7, 5-on-8, or if you have a tight end in there on 6-on-8. So, and when you don't have the quarterback run game to give you an extra number, right, because you would have an extra blocker, it's hard to run the ball. So I think it's more about what defenses are doing to Kansas State and not necessarily seeing Avery Johnson play super well in the passing game. So they said, okay, we're going to Avery Johnson beat us with the arm. Guess what? He could do that now. That's why Kansas State, what I've been saying, since that West Virginia game, is they're no longer one-dimensional. They are a more complete offense. The most impressive thing about their win over the Mountaineers is that they won by 27 points on the road and scored 45 points without a run game.
So to John's point, though, DY, do you think this rushing game could suffer if they don't have the threat of Avery Johnson's legs as some of the defense has to respect?
Well, I think it could be better with Avery Johnson's legs, obviously, because you get an extra blocker in there. But they haven't been running QB power anyway, because you get an extra blocker in there, and you're really talking about QB power. And they're not going to do that with Avery Johnson. So
I guess just even the threat, of, if it's
scramble, yeah.
Well, he's riding the ball in the gut of DJ Giddens, and right now, no one's going to respect that Avery Johnson might keep it because they're clearly not willing to run him. I think that's the concern. Is the first time we saw Avery really not be able to run the ball, DJ Giddens all of a sudden does have a really tough time, albeit against a pretty good front set of West Virginia.
That could be it. You're right. Well, at least that's a non-zero part of it. But Kansas State hasn't really run the ball at a high clip since Colorado and West Virginia decided they were going to put 7 or 8 in the box.
Yeah. To John's point, to me, it is the threat of the read options, the RPO actions, and the threat of him pulling the ball out. The defenses still have to respect a bit. Otherwise, they can dive down on DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards. But I will say, I don't anticipate this being something that lasts. He could run the ball on Saturday against KU. I think Avery is probably more equipped to do it this week from the sound of things. I don't know that they'll go to it unless they absolutely have to. But yeah, I would imagine it's in the back this week, and maybe a reason why they pulled away from it and didn't go to it at West Virginia. Well, and just keep in mind, I rewatched the game, DY. I only saw Avery fall to the ground one time, actually hit the ground, and it was more of a shove. He wasn't landed on. He stayed up on his feet. I think he was in 29 drop back attempts. He was pressured 4 times. There was the one, obviously, that he shook the guy off on that huge 4th and 5 conversion, but he didn't get taken to the ground. It wasn't a hard hit. So that has to help the fact that he didn't, really take any big hits in that game. And that they're treating a lot of recovery and stuff during the middle of the week. Yeah, Avery Johnson has made teams pay now with his arm. Over the last 3 games, K-State's averaging 260 yards per game through the air, 9.4 yards per pass attempt. They've been number 1 in the Big 12 over the last 3 weeks in yards per pass attempt. Top 15 in the country there. They've been top 15 in pass efficiency offense over the last 3 weeks and number 1 in the Big 12 as well. This is from our guy Parker Eves on our Discord at patreon.com/3mom. Avery Johnson over the last 3 weeks, big time throws per Pro Football Focus, has 6. That ranks 10th in the country. Turnover worthy plays, only 2. That's 4th best among FBS QBs in the country. Sacks, 7th fewest in the country. NFL passer rating, 115.2, 4th highest mark in the country over the last 3 weeks for Avery Johnson. He's been tremendous. His PFF grade ranks him as the 7th best FBS quarterback over the last 3 weeks. So Avery Johnson is making teams pay with his arm. And DY, one of the things that this team has done so well is they become far more explosive. Over the last 3 weeks, 50-yard completions or more, 4. They had 1 all of last season. And that 1 50-yard completion, you remember it traveled 2 yards through the air. It was a pass to the flats against TCU. So they're making teams pay with the big play ability. And I think against KU, look, I would not be surprised. Remember last year they went play action, very first game, play of the game, hit Jace Brown, I think, deep over the middle. Will Howard did. I would not be surprised if K-State goes play action first play of the game and tries to capitalize on a guy like Kobe Bryant trying to get greedy, trying to make a big play, and trying to burn KU deep. Because KU's been bad when it comes to explosive plays allowed in the secondary. They have talent at corner, but they're 111th in the country in passing explosiveness allowed.
Against West Virginia, I think plan A was to establish DJ Giddens, and West Virginia said, nope, we're not letting you do that. So plan B was to throw the ball around the yard. If plan B didn't work, you might have saw Avery Johnson run game. But if plan B is working, why do you go to plan C?
Well, that is totally fair. Like, they didn't need to. Became clear early in the second half. Like, they were not going to need to run Avery Johnson at all. And you probably are holding off on that. Like, all right, if we're in the second half and things are really rough and we've got to go to it, then you got to do what you got to do. Also, Cole, how dare you? The same week that Kobe Bryant tweets at media to respect him, you're saying that K-State should go after him on a deep shot play action like he's freaking Aqib Talib and Jace Brown is Jordy Nelson. You're saying that play one, you got to go after the guy after he just called you and all of us media jabronis out?
Yeah, I got that alert since he tagged at media, so it came through to my notifications. All media people across the country got notified by Kobe Bryant, former and current. So that hurt when I saw that come through. Had to really take a look in the mirror about the disrespect I was showing there. I think Kobe Bryant also had the tweet after the K-State basketball game in Ramblage this year. I think somebody took a screenshot.
Dude, he was like going back and forth on Instagram after they lost last year with Jace Brown. Like, I don't,
there's some bad blood there. I mean, there's some ill feelings toward Kobe Bryant. I thought I had a screenshot of the tweet, but Avery Johnson did the laughing emoticons to Kobe Bryant. It was after the K-State game in Bramlage. Kobe Bryant tweeted, "We'll handle them in football this year. That's a promise." Avery Johnson put the laughing emoticons, quote tweeting it, and Kobe Bryant tweeted, "See you soon."
Emoticon.
I was kind of laughing at that too. Yeah, that's
saying that wrong.
Well, it's just aging our show a little bit, but that's okay.
Cole's always the old guy on that.
I thought, how do you not call them emoticons? All right, emojis.
Emojis. Yes, it's
emojis. All right, yeah,
emojis. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and like if you watched the Houston game last week, Kobe Bryant had 3 interceptions.
So bad.
So this is why Kobe Bryant added the media, because of stuff like this.
Yeah. So the 3 interceptions he had against Houston, I mean, the 2 I saw were thrown, like Donovan Smith was like throwing it to him like he was the wide receiver. They were so atrociously bad. So this wasn't really Kobe Bryant making a play. Look, he's a good corner, Mello Dotson. He struggled some this year as well. They're talented corners, their first team All Big 12 preseason, but you can also get them deep. Like I said, 111th in the country in passing explosiveness allowed. We won't mention K-State's passing explosiveness numbers on the defensive end.
Okay, well, speaking of that, I mean, we're already here at the preview, but I do need to tell you that the top storyline brought to you by Alinco, a local company based out of KC, owned by K-Staters for all your home improvement needs. They are locally owned and have been since 1986 in an industry when many have been bought out by national companies. So if you need new windows or a bathroom remodel, they've got premium window replacements, Kohler Luxnote shower systems. They can do new siding on your home as well. And you don't have to be in just KC or Manhattan. They're in Western Missouri, Northeast Kansas, and all over the KC Metro. So go to alencohome.com. That's ALENCO home.com. ALENCO home.com to check out their services, including free estimates. You can also call Sam at 913-961-2165. You're already talking about the defense, Cole, the Kansas defense. So why don't you tell us more about the Jayhawks there? I do feel like most people out there probably know quite a bit more about the Kansas offense than they do the Kansas defense.
All right, let's get to the KU defense notes here. Points per drive allowed, 2.52. That is number 92 nationally, 13th in the Big 12. Yards per play allowed, 5.6. That is 75th nationally. In the 3 Big 12 games before they played Houston on Saturday, KU had allowed 1,431 yards on 205 plays, an average of 7 yards per play. Only 10 FBS teams in college football had allowed more yards per play during that 3-game stretch during that time to me, one of the biggest keys is going to come down to turnovers in this game, guys. If you look at what KU's done defensively, there's a lot of turnovers that they have forced. They make the big play when it comes there. Their turnover rate defensively, 19.4% of opponents' possessions have resulted in a turnover this year. That is the best mark in the Big 12. They've forced 13 turnovers. That ranks 20th nationally. They have 10 interceptions. That's tied for 9th most in the country. And they've forced 11 turnovers in the past 4 games, all Big 12 games, with 9 interceptions during that time. They have forced at least 2 turnovers in each of the 4 Big 12 games. During that time, that's more turnovers forced than any Power 4 team in college football. So you got to take care of the football. K-State's done a much better job of that over the last couple of weeks. They had the 1 interception at Colorado, but aside from that, they've done a really nice job taking care of it. I think only 2 turnovers by the K-State offense in their last 3 games combined. KU touchdown rate allowed 26.9%. So that's number 10 in the Big 12. Success rate allowed, number 93 nationally, number 13 in the league. Power rate allowed, 126 nationally and 15th in the Big 12. Stuff rate, 127th nationally and last in the Big 12. That's the number of plays or the percentage of plays stuffed at or behind the line of scrimmage. Rushing success rate allowed, 100th in the country, 14th in the league. And yards per carry allowed against FBS opponents, 4.3. So not an atrocious number. That's 68th nationally. I will say Arizona State ran for 309 yards on 45 attempts against this KU defense. Rushing plays allowed over 10 yards, 36 this year. That's 90th in the country, though they've only allowed 6 rushes over 20 yards or more. That's 28th nationally, and just 1 run over 40 yards. Rushing explosiveness allowed, number 50 nationally. Passing explosiveness, I've already mentioned, 11th in the league and 111th in the country. Havoc rate, this goes back to the turnovers and everything. KU's number 29 nationally in havoc rate and number 1 in the conference. And as a sack percentage of 7.7%, that's 28th nationally and number 1 in the Big 12. Though remember, West Virginia was number 1 in the Big 12 entering last week. They didn't get Avery Johnson on the ground once. Look, this is a KU rushing defense that has had some nice moments, but for the most part, they've been run against. And I think K-State will be able to do much of the same. You look at this K-State offense, 6.2 yards per carry, one of the best rushing attacks in the country, 5th in the country in yards per carry, and been highly successful over the last few weeks. And also, I just say that the rushing, the overall explosiveness of this K-State offense, guys, consider this. K-State is now number 39 nationally and number 7 in the Big 12 in overall offensive explosiveness. After the BYU game, K-State was 112th nationally and 14th in the Big 12 in explosiveness. They've increased 73 spots in the country just over the last 3 games. K-State finished last season 105th nationally in explosiveness with Will Howard at quarterback. They're 39th nationally right now. Passing explosiveness, just mentioned KU giving up a lot of explosives through the air. K-State's 44th nationally in passing explosives and number 6 in the Big 12. This is per our guy, KSU_fan, by the way, Jimmy on Twitter. After the BYU game, K-State was 123rd in the country in passing explosives and 15th in the Big 12. They've increased 79 spots there. Remember, K-State finished last season 84th in passing explosiveness. I thought Avery Johnson couldn't pass, guys. They're 44th nationally in passing explosives now and 93rd in rushing explosives last year. They're number 22 nationally in rushing explosives right now. And when you look at the pass efficiency offense at K-State with a ranking of 148.1, that's number 29 nationally and number 2 in the Big 12 behind Colorado against FBS opponents. It's the second best mark, just barely behind the 2021 team with Skylar Thompson, had a pass efficiency rating of 149. So just barely, not quite eclipsing that best mark in the Kleiman era in terms of passing efficiency.
Well, it is funny at the beginning of the year when there were some struggles, you heard the more than whispers, people like, you dish Will Howard for this, and then you look at the numbers now, just over halfway through the year, how much more explosive they are. They're able to throw the ball down the field so much better than they were last year. So, and it's not like, it's not like the weapons are significantly different or increased that the passing game has to work with this year than last year. So,
yeah. And I would also just throw in, because I mentioned KU havoc rate defensively being the best in the Big 12. K-State offensively and havoc rate allowed, number 5 nationally and number 1 in the Big 12. K-State only allowing 3.4 tackles for loss per game. That's 9th nationally, number 1 in the Big 12 there as well. And then turnover rate. Like I mentioned, K-State's gotten better at taking care of the football. K-State's only turned the ball over on 8.1% of their offensive possessions. That's number 3 out of 16 teams in the league.
Okay, well, the offense people are a lot more familiar with. I mean, Jalen Daniels, obviously. Going back to that 2022 season when he was getting some Heisman love, he's definitely been on the radar. Devin Neal is awesome. He's always been a guy that I've respected a ton, man. He's such a fun player to watch. Now, Daniel Highshaw, it sounds like may not play, highly questionable according to Lance Leipold, but like Luke Graham has had a huge year at receiver. Those receivers have been around for a long time. So it's a bunch of the names that you have come to know over the last few years for Kansas that are still there offensively.
Yeah, points per drive this year, 2.59. That's number 39 in the country, number 6 in the Big 12. It's improving 6 yards per play on the season, 38th nationally, number 5 in the conference. And league play only, averaging 6.4 yards per play, ranking number 2 in the league. That's per Kevin Flaherty in a tweet I saw there. Success rate overall, 27th in the country, 5th in the Big 12. Offensive explosiveness number overall, 48th nationally, number 9 in the league. Stuff percentage allowed. Now, this is where it gets into the running game and how good they are there. Stuff percentage allowed, the percentage of plays stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage, they're number 2 in the country. Havoc rate allowed, number 20 nationally, 3rd best in the Big 12. Tackles for loss per game allowed, 3.7, that's 16th nationally. Line yards, the number of yards per rush attributed to their offensive line, 3.84. That's number 2 in the country. They rush the ball on 54% of their plays, the 35th highest mark in the country, number 4 in the Big 12 in that mark. Last year, under Andy Koldenicki, they ran the ball on 59% of their offensive plays. That was the 13th highest mark in the country. Rushing success rate, 25th in the country, 4th in the league. Rushing explosiveness, 18th nationally, number 2 in the league. And yards per carry, 5.8. That's number 10 in the country. So 2 of the best rushing attacks in the country are lining up this weekend in Manhattan. The number of rushing plays of 10-plus yards, 47 for KU. That's 18th in the country. And rushes of 20-plus yards, 16th, the 11th highest mark in the country. Going up against a K-State defense that's allowing 2.7 yards per carry on the entirety of the season, which ranks 5th best in the country. K-State's defense has allowed 22 rushes of 10 or more yards. That ranks 15th in the country, though they have given up a few more 40-plus yard plays. Passing explosiveness, guys, KU is a 78th nationally. They were number 11 in the country in 2023 and number 2 in the conference in passing explosiveness. They have that capability still. You mentioned it, John. The receivers are still there. Skinner, Arnold, Grimm. Those are the 3 guys that made up one of the more explosive passing attacks in college football the last couple of years. They're all back, over 5,600 yards receiving in their career and 370-plus catches. Passing efficiency offense, number 8 in the country in 2023 with a 165.2 rating, number 5 in the country in 2022 with a 163.3 rating, 88th in the country in 2024 at 124.2 pass efficiency rating. Sack rate allowed, 4%, 6th in the Big 12. Points per opportunity. This is a big thing to hit on real quick, guys. Number 1 in the country at 5.36. KU is tied for number 1 in the nation in red zone scoring rate. They've scored on 100% of their trips, either a field goal or a touchdown on all 24 red zone trips. KU offense is number 8 in red zone touchdown rate. They've converted 19 touchdowns in 24 red zone trips, 79% conversion rate. K-State defense is 21st nationally in red zone touchdown rate allowed. 10 of 21 red zone attempts converted for a touchdown, 47.6%, 3rd best mark in the Big 12. On the other side of the ball, K-State's offense been really good in the red zone, converting 73% of their red zone trips to touchdowns, 17th best nationally, and number 2 in the Big 12. So turnovers obviously also be a big key here. KU turnover rate, number of possessions that have resulted in turnovers, 14.7%, number 12 in the Big 12. All 11 KU turnovers, though, guys, occurred in their first 5 games. They had multiple turnovers in each of their first 4 games. They have not turned the ball over in their last 2. 3rd down conversion percentage, 50%, 10th nationally, number 1 in the Big 12. Look, there's a lot to like about this KU offense in terms of talent. And are they getting it together now? That's the thing we have to figure out, because Houston, obviously, not a good team. They do have a decent defense. That's the strength of their team. Jalen Daniels posted the 3rd highest quarterback rating behind Avery Johnson, who was 2nd in the country in QBR last week in terms of that. And so does he have his confidence going now, as he's got 5 touchdowns and no interceptions over the last couple of weeks and 507 yards through the air? I didn't even mention Devin Neal, but you already mentioned him, John. I mean, he's terrific. 692 yards on 117 carries, almost 3,800 yards in his career, averaging 5.9 yards per rush. In the 3 previous matchups against K-State, last year was the only year he really got it going against them. He crushed them, 138 yards, 18 carries, almost 8 yards a rush, 3 touchdowns. The prior 2 years, 16 carries, 59 yards, and in 2022, 19 for 62.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like Hishaw being out actually could be an advantage for Kansas because they'll be forced to just give Devin Neal more carries. I've always been amazed that, like Hishaw's fine, but I don't think he's Devin Neal. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out heading into Saturday. But there's the rundown on the Jayhawks as we move into quick hitters. We talked about Avery Johnson not running the ball last week at West Virginia. So what number will be higher? Avery Johnson touchdown passes on Saturday or Avery Johnson carries?
Carries.
Are we counting sacks here as well, John, as part of that?
No, we'll say we'll keep sacks out of it. Let's say like an actual carry. A scramble obviously would count, but also designed runs.
I think you're going to see 5 to 10 carries. So
I think he will run the ball more in this one. So I'll take the over on carries there. If you and me and all three of us had known that like K-State would go 2-0 in 2 games where Avery Johnson had negative 15 yards rushing the last 2 weeks, I don't think we would have thought they would have won before the season. So pretty impressive, but I do think he'll be able to run the ball on Saturday.
I think the QB run game is going to be a resort that both teams go to.
And I agree. And Donovan Williams, just watching that Houston game, he broke off some big runs against that KU defense. Quarterback. Donovan Smith.
Yeah.
Donovan
Williams, the old the guy that's
basketball
once upon a
basketball recruit.
Point of reference, even over the last 3 games, Avery Johnson's only averaging 4 carries a game, and he threw 3 touchdown passes last week. Hence the question. I agree with you guys, though. I think K-State will probably have to use quarterback run. Bigger play in streak history, the Rich Miller dropped pick 6 or Alex Delton's 21-yard go-ahead touchdown run in 2018. Two plays that will live on in K-State, Kansas lore forever.
There's a chance they still figure it out in 18. Probably not. There's a chance because that KU team wasn't any good. Like, they're definitely losing last year if Rich Miller catches that. So I'll go Rich Miller's drop pick in 23.
Yeah, I would say the Rich Miller play. There was so much more energy in last year's game versus that 2018 game, which I don't know, guys. I kind of went into that. That was 2018. That was Bills last year. We all knew.
And that was one of the worst football games I think I've ever witnessed.
No, that was probably the second worst because the worst was the game before that when they played South Dakota.
Wait, in 2018?
They should have lost to South Dakota.
Well, yeah, but I think there were more. I think there were multiple games almost worse than South Dakota. They played TCU that year, which was a gross game.
But Kansas State's losing to South Dakota by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
In terms of overall football, like it was just bad football. I was going back and looking at 2018. I watched some of the highlights of that. Like, first of all, that was the game where the Kansas had, was it a tight end or an offensive lineman who literally, Kansas got flagged for holding on a play, and he went and picked up the flag and tried to like hide it.
Yeah.
Bill Snyder even got asked about that after the game. Somehow I stumbled onto that clip. It was a calamity. Yeah. David Beatty was coaching extremely conservatively, even though he was already fired. It was just, I don't know how Kansas didn't win that game. That was a terrible K-State team, a terrible time of the program. And
yeah, I know off topic, but that same year, the South Dakota game, you know what the score was at the end of the third quarter?
I remember it took a Zuber miracle to win the game.
Yeah, it was 24-12 South Dakota after 3 quarters.
Okay, yeah.
And Alex Delton's line, he was starting quarterback, 5 of 14, 71 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns.
Yeah.
But he plays an important role in keeping the streak alive with a touchdown run, and he was battling like a shoulder injury. I know he really had to gut it out in the second half of that game. So, shout out to Alex Delton.
Still has me blocked on Twitter.
Maybe he'll hear this and unblock you.
I don't know why.
Well, Cole, it's because you were hyping the guy who's currently still an NFL quarterback making NFL paychecks, and I don't know how dare you could have possibly.
There was many people saying Alex Delton had no business being the quarterback publicly, and that Skylar Thompson should be the choice. I think he probably took that personal.
Yeah, I forgive me, Alex. I
Don't say that like Cole doesn't know why he's blocked. Cole knows why he's blocked. Cole knows exactly why.
Forgive me that I made a push for a guy who proved to be an NFL quarterback to be the starting quarterback at Kansas State that Bill Snyder, some reason, refused to play much of the time. So I'm sorry that I wasn't slamming Alex Delton. I was just saying Skylar Thompson better quarterback. We all know that.
Well, I was the one that was, pushing it in the press conference. That, of course, was the memorable moment in the press conference. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's close for me, but because Delton's happened too 5 years ago, so that extended the streak for a lot longer, and that was at a time where we were all pretty apathetic, kind of just like whatever.
Yeah, but if the streak had ended then, people would have just thrown their hands up.
Yeah. Okay, well, West Virginia and Arizona are playing this week, and I saw Jason Shear, who covers Arizona for Wildcat Authority, he put out a tweet that had a poll, and it was which fan base hates their coach more right now, or is angrier at their coach more right now, West Virginia or Arizona. So they're in different situations. Obviously, it's year one for Brent Brennan, but I've already seen Arizona Twitter, man, like people are ready to run him out of town. He's got around a $15 million buyout. Neil Brown is around 9 or 10 right now, and West Virginia fans are definitely tapped out on that too. Who would you rather be? Would you rather be in West Virginia's shoes or Arizona's shoes right now?
Probably as a fan, you mean?
Yeah.
West Virginia, because we're probably going to get rid of our coach sooner since we're on year whatever, as opposed to year one.
Yeah, I'd rather be West Virginia because I know they're probably at the end with Neil Brown. And if I'm an Arizona fan, I'm thinking, what did we get ourselves into with Brent Brennan? Which, look, I wasn't that ecstatic about the hire. I know he had one good year at San Jose State. I know that's a tough program, but that one good year came during COVID. And so...
Yeah. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do with the COVID season?
It doesn't even count. So you throw it out the door.
What I've heard from the national folks, the ones I respect to watch a lot of college football, like almost nearly every game, is they think San Jose State actually upgraded at coach by going to Ken Niumatalolo. So that's not a good sign for Arizona.
Oh, I forgot he went there. Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Navy though. Navy's rolling without him too.
Yeah, but they used his assistant coach. They just hired within after firing the coach, which is very strange.
Well, COVID season, boys. That was when Jimbo Fisher, Mac Brown, Matt Campbell, and Brent Brennan ruled the world.
But I kind of said this in the offseason. Arizona, you brought back a lot of your core. You lost some, but first-year coach that I wasn't really high on in a new league. Are those same players going to be as good for a new coach as they were with Jet Fish? You're counting on 100% scheme fit, and I didn't see it. So that's why I had doubts on Arizona that are kind of proven true, and they're even worse than I thought they'd be.
Let's see. I'm doing a new question on the fly here, but if I gave you an over-under on how many losses combined Iowa State and BYU will pick up this year, who obviously are both currently undefeated, I'm going to set the line higher than I would for most people because I've already heard Cole's take. I would have said 2.5.
Yeah.
But I've already heard Cole's take on what he thinks is going to happen with BYU. So that had me inclined to almost go 3.5 here. But I guess fine. I'll do 2.5. If I put the over-under at 2.5 losses for BYU and Iowa State this year.
I would go over because, look, I haven't watched as much Iowa State as this person, as some, I will say. But there are some that think that they have a loss coming for them soon, even before K-State, because their lack of team speed at times is very glaring, is what I was told.
They look like they got plenty of speed at receiver. Boy, God, I would take their receiving.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because they said, well, whoever has the ball on offense, UCF was tracking everyone down. And when UCF was on offense, Iowa State couldn't catch up. So that was the opposite. So they said there's some people that think that there's some glaring issues that can eventually get exposed for the Cyclones. BYU, it wouldn't shock me if they have 2 or 3 losses by the end of it. One could be this week.
I'd take the over, obviously, because BYU is going to lose 3 of their next 4 games. So they're starting.
There it is.
Starting this Saturday, they're going to lose at UCF. They're going to lose at Arizona State. And they're going to lose at Utah in the Holy War in a rivalry game. That's the one game Utah will get up for. John, did you watch BYU almost lose to Oklahoma State and just get lucky? This is the luckiest team in college football.
I will say that will probably be the best game that Utah plays this year.
I saw Parker Fleming's success rate thing again, and BYU was right there, number 1, as being the
worst.
They are a fluke. Sorry, BYU fans, but It's a fluke.
Judging by college football standards, year over year, by all the guys that do these metrics, BYU is basically defeating all odds by being what they are right now. Like it should be mathematically impossible what they are doing, which means the regression to the norm is going to be painful at some point, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're gonna lose to UCF on Saturday, and
they were the most dominated team in college football last week in terms of success.
Yeah, and Iowa State just keeps, man. I mean, they're playing with fire and getting that PI call. That was awful.
Iowa State playing with fire, and I just crushed them. I know, but what I will say is, like the guys at Solid Verbal always say, winning is a skill. There are some teams that have it, and maybe BYU is one of those. I just don't think so because I don't think they're as skilled. I think Iowa State has. I will say that.
Fewest penalty yards per game in college football for Iowa State. Interesting.
That means you're a really well-coached team, doesn't it, guys?
Mm-hmm. Was that like a cheating allegation? Like you think TJ Otzelberger is running the football program? Or?
Maybe it was for Cole. I was just saying that means they're well-coached. To be honest.
I'm talking to Cole. I'm asking Cole to, it felt like he was insinuating something there, and we were just left to interpret it. So that was my interpretation.
It's interesting that they've been better on the road than at home.
I'm just sharing a stat, guys. I mean, and a controversial PI call and them not being set on the quarterback sneak for a touchdown there to take the lead either. So, some interesting officiating that occurred in Ames. Maybe they were worried that Iowa State fans would throw some stuff on the field. Seems like something their fan base would do.
Speaking of that, Cole, if you could go back and throw trash on the field to get one call in K-State history reversed, what would it be? Because we now have seen, courtesy of the Texas-Georgia game, that you throw stuff onto the field, you can get the call reversed. So one in K-State history. I was having a hard time with football. I came up with way more in basketball, but I don't know, like football. The thing I came up with was pass interference on Jared Cooper in the 2000 Big 12 championship game, which I think cost them that game. But I was like, was there a call in 98? There certainly is no call in the Baylor game in, 2012 that would have made any kind of a difference there. But what about, Cole, my submission here, because we could have personally done it, we were right there, was take your pick. Second foul, third foul, fourth foul for Keontae in the FAU game. Like, we were right there. We could have done it.
Yeah. The second foul.
Because then you play the whole first half. You start the second half with the one. Yeah, second.
Yeah. Honestly, John, that would be mine. We're sitting in row 2. I have never been more mad about a call than that garbage. And why am I blanking on that son of a bitch's name? God,
okay, it's Walton. Something Walton, right?
Earl Walton. I saw him officiate.
For those only listening, the sad Cole picture from the Elite Eight game against FAU is up on the screen.
Boy, Nick, you sure had that awfully handy to get that up really quickly.
Let me just say, Nick, within 1 minute, Nick went from asking us, should I display the sad Cole picture, to having it up on the screen. That is excellent producing, man.
Why don't you put a picture up of Earl Walton? What a clown that guy is. He doesn't deserve to be officiating college basketball. And DY, you've heard this story, but I mean, John and I were shouting out at Doug Sermons during the timeout. Doug Sermons went up to Earl Walton and was saying something to him. It almost looked like, hey, like, you really screwed that call up, man. You're a moron. I think that's what I read. Like, you're a real idiot. Like, I don't know why you're officiating this game in Madison Square Garden. We really made a mistake. That's what I read his lips. But anyways, so John and I start yelling at Doug, who's getting a drink of water right by the goal, to let him know, like, hey, you effed that up. Like, fix this, Doug, fix it. And Doug just looks over at John and I and gives this wry smile and smirk. And, that was the one moment I was a big fan of Doug Sermons, because I think he knew he was officiating a game with a clown and Earl Walton. So that's the game I would have thrown something. In fact, I mean, we were probably pretty close to throwing something. I mean, John, I thought John was going to get us kicked out when he told the security guard basically to F off. He said,
okay. In fairness, that was also because I was telling them about the fact that their light blew up and almost killed us mainly you. You're the one that actually got hit by a scalding, exploding light from the ceiling of Madison Square Garden. So I said, we're going to sue you. That was basically what I said. Like, you try and throw us out or something, like, we'll sue you, man. We got hit by glass. And, yeah, tensions were high, man.
We yelled at Earl Walton as he's walking right by us into the tunnel, and he just stopped, and he looked for us, and then he looked at us and smiled. I mean, I won't repeat the line that you yelled at Earl Walton, but... I
don't even remember what I yelled at.
Oh, I remember. So, okay. Every time, when I see him officiating games, guys, I get PTSD. Last year, I had to turn games off when I saw Earl Walton on the TV. I wouldn't even want him officiating high school games.
All right. Well, I did not anticipate this turning into such an FAU therapy.
You put the damn picture up again. Gosh, I'm all emotional.
Man, God, that got Cole real triggered really fast. I was going to say at least you got your lead pipe block of the week right, but you didn't. So DUI's 5-2. Cole is 3-4. I am 1-6. So at this point, people, I mean, I've been telling you for a couple of weeks now, like, fade whatever I'm about to tell you here. Go the opposite route, and you will make money. I had Arkansas. I thought Arkansas would win outright against LSU last week. Whoops. Cole had Louisville against Miami. That turned into a shootout where they couldn't keep up, and DY put his faith in the Kansas Jayhawks, and they came through. So he is now 5-2. So here's the pick. You should go the opposite route. But Texas Tech is going to TCU, and at least as of yesterday, they were a touchdown dog. Texas Tech is going to rebound from last week. I know that was a horrific performance. TCU, meanwhile, coming off of a pretty big win, and I still think that they're a terrible team. So I'm going to take Texas Tech. I mean, that's a game I feel like Texas Tech probably wins. TCU is not a good team. Not a good team.
Really? I think TCU is going to win that game, and I think they're going to win it handily.
TCU does suck, but yeah, Tech might suck too. You know, UCF is now favored over BYU. You guys see that?
Are they really?
UCF is now a 1.5 point favorite after opening as a 2.5 point dog. Knights, baby. I got the Knights, -1.5.
Yeah, UCF's my lock too. Seriously, that's the one I got circled right here. I didn't know DY was taking UCF. I'll just have to push this week with him because UCF is winning that game, and they're going to.
Cole saw my record wants to tail.
Yeah, I mean, look, you remember the Oklahoma State game and UCF last year, and everybody was like, that betting line seems off, and then UCF beat them 45-3. I'm not saying it's going to be 45-3, but UCF's going to win this game. I think BYU traveling 2 time zones. UCF's got talent. I think UCF, we'll see what their mindset's like after losing a really tough one and losing a few games in a row, but I think UCF will win this. If I was going to take a different game, guys, the other two I really like are, Washington +6.5 at Indiana with Roark out, quarterback Taven Jackson, guy K-State recruited, Taven Jackson.
Yeah, I'm not fading IU at this point. So
and I really like Navy against Notre Dame +12.
That's a good. I thought about that one, but I think Washington's kind of yuck. So I don't know about that one. Yeah. And it's like that Louisville one you had last week where you got that weird number and you don't have the hook on your side. I worry about it.
Well, if all 3 of those hit, then I get an extra point to catch DY, right?
No,
so that's a 3.
Why don't I get 2 other picks then?
That's a 3-team parlay right there. -1.5 UCF, Washington +6.5, Navy +12.5. You're welcome, guys. That'll pay big. Parlay it.
One that I took a look at was Colorado covering in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Cole, I will give you an extra point if your K-State score projection is closer than DY's.
Okay, thank you.
I'm taking K-State. I'm going to say 34-20, but like kind of a 1-possession sort of game into the fourth quarter. K-State scoring again there in the fourth quarter to extend it out. I already told you, like, I'm feeling 2022 sort of vibes here. And that was, and Kansas was within a possession for a long part of that game before K-State finally started to pull away there. So I got 34-20 Cats.
I agree with Cole that this game is in Lawrence. It's a lot scarier. I still think it's scary for a good chunk of this game. I'll say Kansas State wins 35-27. I'll go 8 points.
Yeah. Look, I got Brody's football helmet sitting right here. It still fits on. This is a K-State helmet. So I'm going to take K-State 38 to 28 in what will probably be a one-score type game down the stretch. But ultimately, I like, God, this thing really tight.
I was going to ask me to send the paramedics over to take that off.
Yeah. I think this will be a relatively tight game throughout much of it, and I think K-State will ultimately pull away, win it by 10. The betting spread, as we sit here Wednesday morning, is 10.5. So I think that'll be right around that line.
I'm pretty shocked that I wound up being the highest margin of victory on that one. I was going back and forth between like 31 to 20, 34 to 20. I mean, somewhere around there. I don't think
K-State covering, the only one.
Yeah.
20. I 20 points. If K-State holds KU to 20 points, I'll be pretty impressed. That would be their second lowest point total next to Illinois on the season.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That in hindsight probably was a bit ambitious of me, but I don't know. Turnover too.
They don't kick field goals either. Scott Wildcat reminded me they've only attempted 7 field goals all year. So
my 27 was you probably go for too late at some point, maybe. I don't know.
Missed extra point, Cole. Missed extra point.
Yeah. They got a different special teams coach this year, though, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. I'm not going down that road today. We've gone down enough roads, man. I'm not going down that road today. Okay. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. Reminder to everybody, check out the tailgate this weekend. Come by and see us, spot 778 on the west side, spot 778 on the west side for the 3-Ma tailgate with Holiday Distillery. It starts at 4 on Saturday, same spot that we've been in the past couple of years. You can check out some of the new stuff from Holiday Distillery. Wyatt with Holiday on Friday is going to be launching the Holiday Weeded Barrel Pick from 4 to 7 on Friday at the Fridge. It will also be at the tailgate, but you can only buy it at the Fridge. You can buy it on Saturday, too, if you are heading into town. So shout out to our friends at Holiday Distillery.
Go Knights.
All the work they're doing. Did you just pop in to say go Knights?
Yeah, knock off BYU.
Okay. All right. Very passionate about Sha'Carri Brown and Gus Malzahn. That's what I've always said about this podcast. Okay. Thanks to Nick for doing an excellent job of producing today.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick.
Charge on. Is that what it is? Charge
on is correct. Yes.
And BY, I assume, will have you by the Holiday Distillery tailgate. Of course, you won't have a drink unless I, pressure you into it. But maybe we'll get you to swing by too.
I am not susceptible to peer pressure.
All right. Well, come say hi to us. We look forward to seeing you all. And take care. We'll talk to you soon.